Early arrivals. Always someone who wants to join in live right off the bat. Paige, I like that you've taken the baton from Bailey Leibs yesterday, so appreciate that. Ooh, all the All-Stars are coming out tonight. All right, we're getting there real quick. First off, shout out to tonight's sponsor, Pink Dot, Saul Yamini, a legend of all legends, supplying all the Cabernet you could want. Pink Dot, I mean, where would we be without them? They just set the bar for delivery in Los Angeles. I mean, Postmates, DoorDash, it all began with Pink Dot. Saul Yamini is an LA institution, a legend, and I'm glad that we have him. So, okay, let's get started. The news portion of this is going to be a little shorter today. We're going to cover a couple quick topics right off the bat because we got an amazing guest and he's going to pop on in about 9 minutes, Mr. Metta World Peace. But let's get into a few things real quick. I think we know what's on everybody's mind right now, and you could kind of feel an energy switch, an energy change over the last couple days, and people are starting to get a little fed up with being inside. You can tell that people want to hit. People are starting to wonder whether or not they're starting to get a little tired of the lockdown, and it's not just territory to territory. You're kind of feeling a general energy switch. I mean, look, you've got Jacksonville has reopened. I mean, that's Florida. I assume that they're all on bath salts, or could be. There's definitely like a good chance that they would be on. Anyways, maybe that's a topic to cover for another night. Whatever happened to bath salts? Remember that like quick bath salts outbreak of maybe 2015? I don't know. I feel like that needs to be explored. We'll find out. But yeah, you're seeing a lot of stuff. Jacksonville and some territories in northern Florida, the north of Florida, opening back up. Santa Cruz in Northern California. Santa Cruz opening back up. And you're just getting the general vibe. You're starting to see some public protests, and I'll tell you what I think about these in just a second. But you see Orange County and Huntington Beach. I'm not too much of a fan of these. Okay, Huntington Beach. There was a big protest in Michigan, and people think that they are really trying to adopt this pseudo freedom fighter attitude in believing that that they're having their rights violated by being on lockdown. And I got to be honest with you, I don't agree. I mean, I'm sorry. The Constitution and American life always accounts for emergency scenarios, whether war, pandemic. And I'm sorry that just the marginal value of breaking lockdown and getting back to work over the next 4 to 6 weeks is just not that high. I think it really, and what's the point of breaking lockdown and getting back to work and trying to reopen a business if it's uncoordinated and people are not comfortable using your business? What's the point of reopening your business if people aren't going to use it? That's not helping anyone. So, I mean, I'm sorry, just the right approach here, the sensible approach, good judgment is to wait a few more weeks, wait to make sure that we have all the testing in place, that we have the medical supplies, and that we can reopen in a coordinated manner. All this stuff is just a lot of really narcissistic, self-serving, look at me, look how assertive I am. I'm a revolutionary. Listen, guys, this is not the Boston Tea Party. You're not fighting the British government for taxation without representation. This is really not. This is really just self-indulgent, to be perfectly honest. You are seeing a few other countries that are a little ahead of us on the curve start to open up. So Germany's handled the situation very well. They're a very efficient country. They have a really good medical system. I'm not a big Angela Merkel fan. I think she's, kind of a soulless. I'll be nice since I've been a little mean on the last few. But anyways, so long story short, Germany, they've done well. They have an incredibly low death rate. Their medical system clearly is capable of handling, the fallout from the coronavirus. Once again, grading on a curve pretty well. They're doing really well, but they're going to open super gradually. They're opening up some schools, small shops. So, I mean, if you're and it's Europe, so there's still a lot of small businesses and small shopkeepers and things of that nature. They're not opening up large public spaces. They're not opening up large restaurants. Let's see what else we have here. There's still going to be a lot of restrictions. Restaurants, bars, and hotels will remain closed. They're going to reconvene on April 3rd. They're going to open up a few businesses over the next week. They're going to reconvene on April 30th, and then they're going to decide what the plan looks like for May. I don't see anything wrong with this. It's got to take we're getting so much information in real time every day that there's the only sensible way to proceed here is to set different boundaries, make decisions, in batches for different periods of time. So if you want to just make a decision over the next 2 weeks, reconvene and then make a decision for May, I don't really see what's so wrong with that. And so that's what you're seeing in Germany. Another country that is interesting if this goddamn page loads. Okay, another nation that's interesting to look at right now is Iran. Iran was one of the early outbreaks, seemed to be ravaging the entire country, and Iran's in a really precarious position because their economy's been hurting from U.S. sanctions over the past 2 years and the geopolitical situation. Their economy contracted, their GDP contracted about 9% in 2019, which is pretty wild stuff. So they, and then they had this crazy outbreak right off the bat. The numbers were skyrocketing. And then all of a sudden the numbers kind of flattened out really well, but that's a little strange because they've flattened out even better than most other territories. So, Iran's heavily under suspicion of simply stopping. They're just not reporting what's going on in Iran. They're not reporting a lot of what's happening with testing. But what you're seeing in Iran is because the economy is in such bad shape, they're opening up more quickly because the economy is really not going to survive. If Iran, they are not able to print, they don't have an exchange currency. They're not able to just go print money and fill demand and fill people's pockets. And so they've got a real economic problem. And they're going to have to take more risk in reopening up society to keep the economic engine going. So Sweden, and that kind of, goes to another point of like, all right, what are we going to do here? How are we making the decision of whether or not and when and how to reopen? And one thing that we're seeing in a lot of the territories that do reopen is this, okay? Sweden. So Sweden did not require a shutdown. It didn't require that people necessarily social distance in a certain manner, but they went ahead and did it voluntarily. Okay? So Sweden, they didn't shut down the movie theaters, but people stopped going, right? Just like in the United States, in the few days before official shutdown, attendance at restaurants plummeted. No one was at the restaurants, even though you could, just because people are paranoid. People are concerned. This entire scenario has just upended human behavior and all of our interests and our tastes and our habits. And, I think it's going to take a while to get people comfortable to that again. So I think that anyone who thinks that as soon as a decision is made to allow people to utilize, to reopen society and utilize certain businesses and spaces, that they're going to go ahead and do so. It's going to take a little while. So the more coordinated the effort, the more that we can all be in this together, the better, because it's going to keep people, comfortable with it. And I think that mental component is super important. All right, there's one more thing I want to try to talk about before Metta joins, and that is this, the antibody study in the Bay Area. Try to get through this quickly. Essentially, there was a controlled experiment amongst 3,300 individuals in Santa Clara County up in Northern California. The results of that study showed that a lot of those individuals, pretty high percentage of those individuals had tested positive for antibodies from the coronavirus. And there's still a lot of confusion around these tests. What does it necessarily mean? What do the test results mean? What is it? Are other types of antibodies showing up as positive tests, even if there's super low amounts of antibodies? And what are the implications of this? Some people take away from this that it means that there are just a ton more people infected who just are pretty much asymptomatic but had the coronavirus at some point. And that, I think there's a lot of evidence that is the natural conclusion, but there's a lot of evidence that contradicts that. One, simply the existence of hot zones, that, okay, if so many people had it, why were they asymptomatic? And what was the difference between those territories and the territories that experienced outbreaks and saw this spike? Another piece of that is the fact that Seattle and Washington, which was one of the first places to get hit in the United States, had different results. So they did antibody tests in Seattle and Washington, and you saw different results than you're seeing in the antibody tests in Santa Clara County. It was only 3,300 people. Apparently, they solicited participants in the study through Facebook ads, so that could be some selection bias there. We'll have to see. All right, let's see what's going on. I think Metta is about to join, or is he on now? Let's hope so. Gerard, yeah, if you're there, if you want to text him. Gerard, if you want to text him, that would be great. That would be super helpful. So we'll keep going here for a minute while Gerard hunts down our boy Metta World Peace, but he'll be coming on in just a second. So let's see what else we have here. All right. Also, everyone's wondering what's going on with what's going on in Sweden. They are involving themselves in this really interesting experiment. They're taking a high risk strategy in not implementing too many restrictions on society, not shutting down that many businesses, and we're trying to see are they going to get? They're accepting that they're going to get hit in the short run. In the short run a little harder, but will that help their society build herd immunity and stretch this out over a longer period of time? And what's the death rate look like in Sweden right now? Hold on. From what we can see, at least based on this chart, you're seeing what you would expect to see under the best case scenario for a herd immunity strategy, where there's a really violent spike in deaths, but then it tapers off very quickly. And is that data accurate? We're seeing some mixed results here and there. There's some evidence that a lot of Sweden has a higher death toll because it's reporting deaths in retirement communities, which is obviously a place of higher concentration of deaths from this situation. And is Sweden even being more responsible and overestimating the amount of people who have died because they're reporting those deaths, or is that somehow skewing the results? We haven't really figured that out yet, but I don't know. Hopefully, we're going to keep on gathering more data on that situation. And let's see if we've got Mr. Artest. Come on. Oh, God. God damn it. All right, hold on 1 second, guys. Okay. Think I'm going to have to pop off and call our boy for a second. So we'll stop the live for just a second, and we're going to pop on back on in just a minute. Or you didn't think it's next week. I talked to him 20 minutes ago. Okay, whatever. There's a bunch of other shit for us to talk about while we're getting him. Another territory that is doing remarkably well. Come on. New Orleans. So New Orleans, also one of the early aggressive outbreaks. It was an early aggressive outbreak because of Mardi Gras. A ton of people in one confined space. It has taken extreme mitigation steps right off the bat, isolating people aggressively, and it seems to have worked out. They've flattened the curve pretty quickly. One thing that a lot of people are attributing that to is that people are so paranoid from what happened with Hurricane Katrina that they're really not trusting the government. And there he is, Mr. World Peace. Okay. All right. There he is. Let's get this guy on. Come on. Metta, if you can request me, buddy, so you can pop on in. Meta, if you can request, bud. It's not letting me request. There we go. Don't need a CTO, Peter. We need, Instagram not to suck. And we will have. There he is.
How's everything?
Everything's going well, my friend. How are you?
Everything's good, man. I know. Sorry, I'm being a little bit late.
Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. So
Absolutely,
it's endless topics in this situation that we're in right now. So
absolutely.
we're scoping through a few of them. But great to have you here, man.
Same here.
And thank you for taking the time. Right off the bat, just you're from Queensbridge. You're from Queensbridge in Queens, New York, correct?
Yeah, Long Island City, Queensbridge, New York. Yep.
You know something, me and you, we got more in common than you think, man. My parents are from Queens. My mom is from Bell Park. She was born in Bell Park, but think about maybe even just a few miles away from Long Island City and Queensbridge. And yeah, I didn't even mention that when we'd spoken earlier because yeah, someone sent me a photo of my grandfather's courtyard scene. I was like, oh my God, me and Ron got more in common than Metta got more in common than I even remember.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
represent
Did
the
you grow
city.
up in New York City?
No, I grew up here in Los Angeles. My parents from Queens, but they moved out here to LA, and so that's where I grew up. And just went out, a lot of childhood memories in Queens on Queens Boulevard, and
Yeah.
they stuck around. So it's been a little while, but I'm sure Queens is one of the territories that's been hit, unfortunately, really hard by this situation. So I imagine you've been in touch with a lot of family members, friends, and people back in Queens, and how are they holding up?
Well, a lot of my friends back home, you know, not affected, but a lot. I know some people who was affected, like some friends that
Hmm.
actually passed away. My auntie passed away
Oh my
from
God!
coronavirus. Yeah,
Oh, I'm
one of
sorry
my
to hear that.
old, yeah, and actually a player that me and Shamika Hallsclaw used to play with. I think I heard that he might have passed away. So so it's getting closer to. You probably know someone who passed away from corona through someone.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
that's something a piece that's going to be really, really tough and something that'll play into our conversation about the mental
yeah,
health and emotional impact of the situation. Almost nobody's going to come out of this situation not knowing someone who is impacted, you with your aunt directly. And I mean, you're holding up really well and
yeah.
prayer to you and your family here. Shamika Holtzclaw, she's one of the greatest female basketball players of all time, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely one of the greatest. When she was 13, I was 12. I used to come off the bench behind her at some leagues. She was the starting center because she was tall,
Oh my God.
and we all idolized her. Like we all loved her.
What?
And, yeah, she was an amazing player. Amazing
Yeah,
player.
I can remember, there was the first generation of right around when the WNBA came around and some of the first female players started to gain some prominence, and Shamika was one of the top ones. And she can play ball.
Absolutely.
She's got game for sure.
Absolutely, she was one of the top ones. She had some difficulties, in her career, like a lot of athletes do, but she was absolutely one of the best. I see you
For
got some red
sure.
wine over there, man. That's really nice.
You know something, man? It's night. We got nothing else to do. It takes the edge off. My buddy Sol, you ever use Pink Dot for delivery?
No, I mean, I use other delivery sources.
Got it. I got it. I hear you. I hear you. Pink Top was the OG. They're an institution in this town. So my boy Saul, he took care of me tonight. So had to pay some tribute.
No, that's
Um,
great.
Also, so who are the other players that that people might know of that ended up being prominent that you grew up playing with from Queens,
Yeah.
from the New York area?
Well, I think like some of the players, I grew up watching Stephon Marbury,
Oh, New York
uh,
legend.
legend. When I was a 10th grader, he was a senior, so that
Hmm.
was pretty cool seeing that. Shamgar Wells,
Oh man.
God Shamgar, coach of the Dallas Mavericks, played with him in high school.
Hmm.
Also, then we had Felipe Lopez.
Oh,
You
people
know,
don't know about Felipe Lopez, man. They don't know. This is a high school legend. This guy was, on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a high school player, #1 recruit in the country, went to St. John's. I mean, he was a schoolyard legend, right? And something
absolutely.
just for some reason, it didn't catch on the pros, but anyone who was covering basketball and knew his ball back in the '90s knows the name Felipe Lopez for sure.
Man, he was baller. He was a baller, and I always felt he should have went pro right out of high school, something like
Yeah.
that. But things happen.
Yeah.
A lot of great players from the city. A lot of great players that just didn't make it.
Mhm.
They just like working at Starbucks and just could ball.
It's incredible. So that's an interesting point. So, I'm sure you've seen that it is so obviously you've got, elite players that they have something extra. They've got an extra gear of talent, of work ethic. But most of the other players, I mean, it's a really small difference in talent, and ability between who makes it and who doesn't. And I mean, what have you seen? What did you see in your years in the league and observing it since of that distinction between who makes it and who might just kind of fall a little short?
Sometimes it's opportunity, exposure. Most of the time it's going to be hard work because when you do get the opportunity, usually the person that's more prepared. So it's a little bit everything. It's a
Mhm.
lot of luck. If you think about, trying to get 400 people uh, from, you have choices of millions, maybe billions. There's probably 2 billion people on the planet that play basketball,
Sure.
right? And when you're talking about the top 400, that's still luck too.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
had to be in the right place at the right time, even as a child, someone that wanted to give it the time to teach you how to play basketball.
Uh-huh.
You
For
know,
sure.
um,
For sure.
so
Who was that in your life?
for me, it was for me, my dad was the first one to introduce me to the game. Then I learned how to play from great coaches, Paul Mead from Queens, Lou Gons from Queens, and then a lot of the hustlers, a lot of them in jail, some are not. So a lot of the hustlers from Queens taught me the ins and out of tricks and how to win and how to
Mm.
compete. So it was a mix of everything, and then that kid went to the league
Uh-huh.
and became a decent player.
That's not a defensive. I mean, just we would watch you, with your hands. You're like, remember that game Street Fighter, and that they had that character E Honda. His hands would just be so quick; they're like a blur. I
Yeah.
remember we watched Lakers games, and the announcers would be like, "He's like E Honda, man. His hands are so fast. Like nobody, every other NBA player, like nobody's even trying to just go and strip the ball from someone right off the bat because their hands aren't quick enough. And your hands, you'd always be able to get your hands on the ball. It was crazy. It was amazing.
Yeah, I know. It was one of the tools that I had that I think kept me in the league because it was a tangible. It was one of those intangibles that you really can't really measure how it's
Yes.
working. But yeah, it worked.
For sure, and that's you've always been a very astute observer of intangible measures in the game. I can recall you were given it, not saying that hating on a guy like Mike Brown. Mike Brown's had a great career in the league as a coach and done, resurrected himself with his recent tenure with the Golden State Warriors. But when you were saying like, hey, sometimes his approach to the Lakers might have not been working, is that he's looking too much at the stats and doesn't understand an intangible impact, like when going down the stretch on a key possession, when the offense might direct the ball away from whoever you're guarding because they know you're guarding them and they're going to get locked down.
The league. It's a place where you got to have some balance. So if you're a coach who never played in the league, you might work out. You might work out because they don't necessarily need a player who has all the experience and going to come in there with input,
Hmm.
and outspoken. So with that being said, you got to train a mix of former players and a mix of people who don't know how to play the game at all,
Sure.
to become coaches. Because to become a head coach, you just got to have a good management system. If you have good management system, you'll be fine.
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
was, but my thing with Mike was sometimes I felt it was a little bit too much stats. But now, as I look at it, if I was coaching, I would totally implement statistics
Hmm.
in my decision making, like 100%.
For sure. Yeah. I think Mike Brown and his tenure with the Lakers came right before a bit of a statistical revolution in the game,
Yeah,
in the basketball games. It's really interesting. Another interesting thing about that team, that Lakers team with Mike Brown is, I mean, he had a set of beasts on the bench. All the assistant coaches ended up being, I mean, he had Quinn Snyder. He had a guy
yeah,
named Ettore Messina, who's very well regarded
yeah.
international coach. Yeah, he just had all these guys who ended up, you guys it must have been some great minds on that, a real, heavy hitter lineup of great minds on the coaching staff that year.
There's a lot of experience, but a lot of the coaches that coach in the NBA, they get to benefit from the fruits that the coaches before put the work into. So that kid at 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. These are coaches that you're never going to hear about. You
Yeah.
know, a coach from Idaho who we don't even know, coach from Brooklyn, Queens, we don't even know him, right? And for me, you know, the greatest coaches I've played for, almost in order, would be, I would say Rick Carlisle, then I would say PJ, Rick Adelman. Um, I played for Byron Scott, you know,
Great.
three-time champ, 8 times to the finals. Artie Cox, who nobody knows, from New York City, legendary in New York.
Mhm.
Um, Kevin Jackson. Yeah, these are coaches that are just like some of the best minds that you'll ever come across in basketball. So sometimes you want to, you know, give credit to the coaches that we don't hear of, you know,
Totally.
instead of just what's on the surface, you know?
Yeah, yeah. There
Yeah.
was that Shaq documentary on NBA TV the other day, and they're talking about when one of the game-changing moments for him as a youth player, and he talked about how he saw that a guy named John Koncak for the Hawks in the late '80s, early '90s got a big contract. He's like, hold up a second, if that guy makes $5 million a year, I should be making $7 million a year. I can do this. And then they kind of brought in his high school coach, and it was this guy, you've never heard of this guy. And Shaq is like, no, this is my high school coach. This is the guy who made me, it got me to believe in myself and showed me the path. And without having this guy on my side, I might have never, that and seeing that John Koncak was making all that money, I would have never had the motivation and the belief. So it
Right,
is
right.
really, it's super fascinating to see that. So I mean, we got to talk. Phil Jackson, PJ, that's a different dude right there, huh? I mean, that's a guy who's got his own philosophy, his own approach towards life, and it's, I mean, 11 championships in what, 14?
13,
Oh my God, that's
because
unheard of.
two as a player.
Crazy, yeah. Everyone forgets he won two with the Knicks as a player. That's crazy
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, I mean, so I mean, anything you want to tell us about Phil and how he his unique approach to the game, and the guy would rope in Zen, and we'll get to this in a second, and how it plays into your personal philosophy, Zen Buddhism, the philosophy of the Lakota Sioux Indians. I mean, this guy just wrapped a lot of interesting dynamics into his coaching philosophy.
You know, Phil is great. He was more, he was the type of coach where he'll give you the platform and you use it, you know, to the best of your knowledge. Uh, take advantage of all the, you know, the opportunities in the system. That system is the triangle.
Hmm.
Our last play that we had, I don't remember him drawing up a play. I remember him writing something that said fight. He might have drawn a play, but I remember coming out of the huddle and he just so calm, you know, and he keeps you calm. And
Yeah,
it's hard to do that for, you know, 20 seasons, you know, to be someone that can control egos. You know, imagine working at an office, you're the CEO, and you got a really good CMO, a really good COO, but damn it, right? They just, you know, don't really gel,
sure, sure.
right? And then how do you manage that? And so Phil Jackson has so many different companies and teams. I call them companies, right? So
Yeah.
many different that he was able to adjust to whoever came in there. Dennis
Mhm.
Rodman, Metta World Peace, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan probably more crazier than us, right? Pippen. All these guys got
Yeah,
egos, right? So
totally,
I think
totally.
that's why we needed him the year when Mike Brown came in. Not because Mike Brown couldn't handle the job, but you needed someone to manage the egos.
Yeah, yeah. That's what it kind of felt like that year that, Mike Brown in other scenarios could have done a really good job, but going from
Yeah.
Phil to Mike Brown, that's just not that's too much of a shift.
But I think like we got all those superstars. So I mean, only time it didn't work with all those superstars was when Gary Payton came there and Karl Malone. And Karl Malone was hurt. I don't know the stories, but I heard he was hurt.
Yeah. No, he had a knee injury and missed yeah, he was unfortunately the glue, and then when he got a knee injury it all kind of fell apart.
So do you think if Karl wasn't hurt, you think they would have won?
It's all right. I can remember this because I remember the beginning of the season when Shaq and Cook, because everyone forgets, Kobe, the situation went down in Colorado. That was shocking. And then, I think he kind of reached a give no fucks point where he and Shaq were just going at it, and they just couldn't
Yeah.
hold back on each other. He's calling Shaq fat. Shaq is threatening, is literally like people are telling Kobe, don't come to the practice facility. Shaq's going to kill you. I mean, the tension was high. And then you got Karl Malone. He's like, dude, I'm 40 years old. I took a big pay cut to come here. I'm trying to do the responsible thing. And like, I remember telling my friend, Mark, I was like, the only thing holding this team together is Karl Malone's professionalism right now. And he was still, that dude can play. Everyone needs to look at Karl Malone's stats. That guy was putting up stats. That guy put up stats for 18 season. That guy was
18
laying,
season.
he was laying 22 and 12 on everybody into his late 30s and early 40s, which is him and Kareem are the only two guys ever to do that. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Right.
So yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
think definitely in the finals. I mean, another kind of inside tip. There's apparently, because Rasheed Wallace was just eating the Lakers alive in the finals when he was guarded by Slava Medvedenko. This was around when Borat came around, and it's like Rasheed was just like ripping on Slava like on the court, like calling him Borat and stuff.
Yeah.
Slava Medvedenko, God bless him, the
He
guy could
was
shoot.
he
Yeah,
was he wasn't he wasn't a horrible player. He was solid.
yeah, but he couldn't guard a Rasheed Wallace in that in that scenario at that time point in his
Yeah.
career. So I think Carl,
Absolutely not.
yeah, Carl would have been a big, a huge benefit to them at that point, man. So listen, we'll loop back to the Lakers and your experience with them in a minute, but obviously we just mentioned Phil Jackson and his approach towards Zen and meditation, and these are things that, from what I've gathered, are a big part of your life and a big part of your personal philosophy, and even informed your name change. And would love to hear more about that and how you've how meditation and consciousness practice has played into how you've approached the coronavirus situation.
Well, obviously with coronavirus, it's been tough because we're programmed to do business.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, you do have some people who are just going to live their life, in a Zen manner, doing yoga, meditation, just chilling. But the economy before Corona, it was decent, solid. There was some certainty. Now it's a lot of uncertainty. People lost their jobs within a day.
Yeah.
And now what do you do, right? So, for me, and then I'm fortunate enough to not need my business, but the business I was starting kind of had to get shut down. It was involving people, meeting people.
Sure.
So when you take investments, and then some people lost investments right before they was going to get the check. They're like, hold on, I'm sorry, but I
Yeah.
lost maybe 100 million. It's different levels for everyone.
Sure.
Because how we're programmed, in this economy. So, with that being said, people are losing family members, losing jobs. So I've been just trying to, stay on the path of hope, still continuing, my personal business, but maybe pivoting a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
not giving up. The first day I was shot. Like the first day, I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even care what I'm doing on the business side. What's happening now, this is reality. Like, a pandemic is here. And so I spent a couple of days trying to figure out, like, how are we going to survive? Because they shut everything down. So you don't really have that much control as a citizen,
Yeah.
right? You don't have that much control. So people's going in there trying to get toilet tissue. People's buying all the groceries out of the supermarket, which is
Sure.
understandable because we're in panic mode. Right, it's not people are calling. We're in panic mode. They just said that we could all potentially die,
Yeah.
and so with that being said, you try to just have hope. And at this point, the people are putting trust in people. Now, what I hope is, like, we know it's a lot of corruption that happens in governments and different things like that. I hope with this situation, nobody's trying to take advantage of this situation, because it's a lot of opportunity right now to take advantage. You can buy companies for cheap. You can buy people for cheap. Right now, it's so many things that I'm very concerned about when we get out of the COVID era, or not even era, when we get out of lockdown. So there's a lot of things I'm concerned about.
Yeah, and that's one of the points before you hopped on that I was making, is that everyone has this very fixed idea in their mind of, okay, the date that they reopen, X is going to happen. We're going to get back to real life. But what we're seeing with a lot of the territories that have reopened internationally before us, people are not getting back to their habits. People are not going ahead and just going back to restaurants. They're actually self-isolating. And it's kind of what we saw right before lockdown. They saw a statistic of restaurant reservations in the few days before lockdown. So you could still technically go to the restaurant, but people weren't going. And so I think, we're going to have to manage manage
But
reintegration.
and you know, I think like people still are going to want to get paid a fair salary. So now, you know, if somebody's not getting paid, you can pretty much offer them, you know, whatever, and they'll take it. And that's something that, you know, I'm hoping, you know, with the stimulus package, and we're trying to get businesses open, and hopefully we can get some things going online where you can still offer someone a good salary, you know,
Sure.
where they don't have to, you know, take an extreme pay cut when we get out of, you know, COVID-19. So, and you see Amazon just hired, what, 75,000 people, you
Yeah.
know, so it's still opportunity out there. I just hope that, you know, the everyday citizen is not getting taken advantage of, you know, when we come out of this. And I'm hoping that some of the businesses could, you know, get back, because some people like the Lakers, right? The Lakers is a family organization, you know, a very rich organization. Some people got family businesses,
Hmm.
you know, that's what that's going under. So, you
Yeah.
know, what are they going to do? You know, and then some people have businesses where they only had 1099s, and you were required to have W-2s in order to qualify for a stimulus package. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So some people didn't even understand that. So it's like a lot of things that I worry about coming out of COVID-19.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. You know, what we see, businesses are sustained by people wanting to use their services and their products, right? And there might be a lot of businesses where there was no natural, you know, people didn't stop wanting to use them. They just couldn't because of the scenario. So it's like when we begin to get back to normal, are they going to be able to revive these businesses based on, you know, the affection that people have for them and want that they want to use these businesses? Are they, is there going to be a path back for them? And that's definitely concerning, you know. So we're going to have to manage it, and you know, it's scary because it's a lot of the unknown, because no one's ever dealt with anything like this before. Your business in particular that you were working on, you know, and you can tell us a little about that, was an app to, you know, to facilitate people finding each other, basketball players and fans to find each other,
Yeah.
to play pickup games and whatnot. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, and you know, also how this is something that you think, you know, once you're able to have this business, is going to help people, you know, bring people together and give them a little comfort.
Well, you know, so prior to this, I was developing a business where we were going to bring athletes together of all levels to give people some a place to have to brag, and you say, I'm the best recreational player, I'm the best pro, female, male. We also had options for non-binary, co-ed, all type of options, because what we wanted to do was give people a platform to play sports and to be recognized no matter what the gender is,
Sure.
right? So that was the starting point. And once we started, you know, to get kicked off, and investments was coming in and partnerships is coming in, then, you know, coronavirus is announced and our entire business model had to change. Luckily, we had a really good team. So
Hmm.
luckily we was able to still launch a product, which we're launching first week in May, that's going to still be able to bring athletes together
Awesome.
online. You know,
Hmm.
so the first 2 days I was a little bit rattled. I'm like, wow, like what are we gonna do? But then as I started to go online and started to research and look at some data, it was like, oh, wow, online is really on fire now. So I'm still able to bring athletes together. So right now, X versus X sports.com, that's XVSXsports.com. You can register, and then we'll send you an email when the app actually comes out.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you know, I'm sure that, you know, you see the power of sports to bring people together, to you know, bring them joy and to assist them in, you know, and what some the other, you know, emotional issues that they might be having. And I mean, you know, I'd imagine it's something that, you know, if you're to talk about strong personalities in the NBA who are known to be, you know, do their own thing. You know, Rodman always talks about this a ton. You know, how basketball was a saving grace, and I mean, I imagine, you know, you feel the same way. There was a great creative outlet for you, and you know, and really like, and really, you know, as you said, we'll get to Game 7 of 2010 Finals in a minute, but something that was an avenue for you to better yourself and then teach others how to you know, how to improve their mindset as well.
Yeah, and well, can you say the volume went out towards halfway?
Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
just you know how sports brings people together and is a
Yeah,
path to self improvement
right.
and to dealing with some of the mental and emotional difficulties that you might be having and a saving grace for people.
Absolutely. And right now, more than ever, I think I had a lot of doubt where we're going to be at as a country, um, back into the workforce. But like I told you, 2 days after COVID, I got back online. I'm like, okay, people are still active, you know, while supporting each other. So now I think more than ever, sports is important, and especially online sports, because people are still connecting. Now we want people to connect physically, offline, as much as possible to keep that
Right.
human contact. But you still have to practice social distancing. So right now, we're in a good situation where online, offline, we're still going to be able to bring people together. And when you bring offline people online, a lot of offline players that are passionate about playing, they don't really have the skill to transition to anything digital.
Hmm.
So we're bringing both groups together, sports medias, aspiring sports media, aspiring sports agents, aspiring sports owners, general managers, players, fans, enthusiasts, and we're bringing them together on platforms so they can collaborate, build community, build together, connect, and different things like that. So, and then also, you can connect offline and play some games, which we
For sure.
gamified. We got some gamification tools and features inside the app, which I
Hmm.
think people are going to like.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so, like I said, I'm hoping that we have philanthropy embedded, in my project. I always try to, as you know, I raffle my ring off when I was with the Lakers and different things like that. So I always try
Mhm.
to make sure I'm doing some type of social impact and philanthropy when I'm doing business. So hopefully it comes across.
100%. It's something that's going to be even more prominent and more visible as we go along, in this next phase. Because, I mean, if there is to be a silver lining to all this, it's that it has, woken a lot of people up to it's made them focus more on where they can be generous, where they can help their community. And so, for better or for worse, sometimes it takes a really high intensity situation like this and a really challenging situation like this to get people to steer the ship in that direction. So I mean, is that what you've seen in your experience, where people are really stepping up to the plate and trying to help out their fellow man?
Absolutely. You see it every day, right? You see people staying home when they can. Now, early on, we were saying stay home, stay home, stay home. But the problem was people needed to work because the stimulus package is not here today and people need to eat. So the people that did stay home, kudos to them, kudos to us, and still
Sure.
allowing people that had to be on the front lines, even a person that's packing at Rouse, they're keeping food on the shelves so we can eat, right? And so I think staying home helped them even, we protected them from contracting the coronavirus.
Sure.
So you did see people come together, which was really important because in the beginning it was everybody was panicking. So
Hmm.
we didn't know what was going to happen the next day. I'm sure everybody had those moments like, is this the purge? I even heard somebody like playing the purge sound on online. I'm like, good Lord, I got to get ready.
The closest thing
Yeah.
we had. So
Good
no,
Lord.
that all makes a ton of sense, man. And I think we have seen a lot. Listen, some people have not gone in the right direction, but I think overall we've seen a lot of great acting. We've seen some of the worst of people, we've seen some of the best of people, and it's
Yeah,
been
definitely.
really inspiring to see on a lot of levels, man. And so I'd love to. Man, a lot of a lot of my followers are Lakers fans. I mean, I think that you saw, you're someone correct me if I'm wrong, but you deliberately put efforts towards coming to the Lakers. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if the urban legend is true that you found Kobe after that loss to the Celtics in 2008. And you told him like, hey, I'd love to help you. I'd love to help you get that next championship. But that's hey, us Laker fans love that story, even if it's not true. But we're gonna say, you
I
can
mean,
tell
it's
it.
it's I didn't say that I wanted to help him get to the next championship, but I did tell him good game. I was like, good game, and hang in there. You'll get him next time. Just like I'm a fan,
Hmm. Hmm.
although I'm
Hmm.
super competitive at the time when I was playing in my prime. I'm a fan. Like this is Kobe Bryant, and he's an amazing player. So you got to respect that. And
For
I wanted
sure.
to go to that game, and unfortunately, I really wanted to go watch Lamar and Kobe, but it
Mm.
was other Hall of Famers playing also. Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. I was there about 14 rows up, 2008,
Oh,
and I
really?
watched them get blown off. Yeah, I watched them get blown off that court,
Oh,
and
God.
it was a hell of an experience for me.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So okay, so you come to the Lakers. You know, it's a team that's just coming off a championship. I mean, I'm sure you kind of understand that the Lakers are a special thing in Los Angeles. At LA, we don't have city pride about anything. The Lakers are the only thing that brings the city together. You know, it's like LA is a really spread out place. It's a lot, it's tough. It's not a city that has a lot of community. And the Lakers are the only thing that gives it community. You know, what was your experience seeing that and experiencing that as a Laker? The type of thing like LeBron talked about, you know, when he gave Kobe's eulogy. He's like, man, I thought this Lakers Nation thing was just a little marketing ploy. It's like, this is for real. I mean, you guys are a real family.
The Laker fans make it like that way because you're from Los Angeles. Sports is necessary, and one of the biggest, I guess, communities of entertainment, is right here in Los Angeles. So it's Showtime, it's Hollywood,
For sure.
and it's more marketed than the other smaller, market teams, right? So being in LA, everybody wants to go to Hollywood. Everybody wants to be in the movie,
Sure.
right? You want to win in LA, and then the fans, as long as you win, they don't care what you do after that, right?
We
Laker
like a winner
fans
out here. There's no doubt about it.
when you win in Los Angeles, it's different. The only other city that could compare is New York City. If you win in New York City,
They love you.
it's a different ball game, right?
Mhm.
It's a different ball game if you can win a title in New York City. So
Yeah,
that's the only other thing I could compare.
for sure, for sure. And okay, so we're coming up now we're just about there, June 2010. I mean, as a Laker fan, I mean, oh my God, that I sweated for 2 weeks straight there during that Celtics series. I mean, we can't lose to the Celtics again. I mean, this was for all the bragging rights for 20 years. You know, that series must have just been intensity, start to finish, minute to minute, hour to hour. I mean, what was your experience, being in the NBA Finals as a Laker against the Celtics, just the showdown, the biggest rivalry in the NBA?
It was amazing. So the history between the Lakers and the Celtics, right? I have nothing to do with this history until 2010. I played in New York. I'm from New York, played with the Bulls. Favorite team was Chicago. I don't even know about the rivalry. So I really didn't know I was entering the rivalry when I got into the finals because I was just focusing on winning. So
Sure.
when I thought about it and I'm watching it 10 years later, I'm like, good God, I'm a part of history. It don't hit you till later. Like, I'm really a part of history. And it wasn't like I was a high level player when I played. So rightfully so, I'm a part of history. It wasn't one of
Totally.
those things where I was okay and I hit a big shot.
Hey,
I put in work.
Sasha Vujacic. We love Sasha Vujacic. Great, appreciative of what he did. But the guy came in for 2 seconds in the game and he hit two key free throws, which is nice.
Hey.
I mean, bro, to come in ice,
Big shots.
not playing the entire game and coming in.
Let me tell you what happened. So we was up, right? 2 points or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And about 25 seconds left. So somebody gets fouled or it's a timeout. I go to Phil Jackson and I say, Phil, put Sasha in for.
What?
I did. Because I'm just like this. I would have loved to hit the free throws, right? I took a big shot. I don't give a fuck. I'll shoot it. But I'm just looking at the percentages. At this time, I just want to win the fucking game. And Sasha's a 90% free throw shooter, and I'm 71. So when I looked on the floor, Fisher is an 80-something percent free throw, 88. Kobe's 82. Powell, 80. Right? I'm at 71 or 72. Sasha makes 10 free throws with his eyes closed after every practice in a row.
What?
That's what people don't understand.
Oh my God.
With his eyes closed.
Have you ever disclosed this information before?
I do sometimes. But so when you're talking about like putting Sasha in, I'm not fucking worried. I'm just like
10 with his eyes closed?
With eyes closed. And you see when he walked to the line.
Ice cold.
You saw when he walked to the line.
Oh my God, man. He was not phased for a heartbeat.
Because there was no reason for me to come out the game at that point in time, right? So he made the free throws that I came back in. But I just was like, I'm 71%. He's 90-something%. So if you talk about statistics, put Sasha in and put all the best, because they got a foul. Let's make 2 free throws and get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly, man. All right. MWP was ahead on the NBA statistical revolution. I love it.
Quick.
And there's something I heard. I mean, that game 7. I mean, that's to me as a Laker fan, that's the ultimate moment in sports, defeating your ultimate rival in a dramatic manner like that. I remember at some point you had been saying that Derek Fisher gave the pregame pep talk to the team, and I mean, you were like,
not pregame, in the game, in the game. We was down 14-13 in the third quarter.
I was going, what? Okay. That was one of the strangest viewing experiences in my life. I'm like, what is going on here? Kobe can't hit a shot. Nobody can hit. This is the ugliest game. How are we going to blow this? You could feel the tension in the air, but then somehow the energy turned. Somehow you guys grinded through it. I mean, what was the mental space like for you guys? How did you see that playing out?
Well, Fisher comes to the bench. We're sitting down. Fisher tells everybody to get up, so we stand up and we huddle. And we down. My head is like, I never won a title, right? So my head is like, oh my goodness, like we're down and we gotta fucking win.
Yeah.
So Fisher comes and says, hey guys, he can tell you the speech better, but he says, hey guys, where else would you rather be? Down 13, game 7, Staples Center. He said, where else would you rather be? Wow. Your life's on the line, about to die. And we're like, hell yeah.
Oh my
That's
God.
what happened. Derek Fisher, I don't know if Derek Fisher doesn't give that speech. I don't know if we beat Boston.
Oh my God.
I don't know if we beat Boston.
That is a chilling speech right there. It
was amazing. It was the most amazing thing I ever heard in my life.
Oh, wow. Shout out to D Fish, man. A leader of men. God bless that man. I mean, he was a great, a guy who you could even remember the minute that guy got to the Lakers, because he came in as a rookie with Kobe, and I'm like, okay, this Kobe guy, something's there. But this Derek Fisher guy, man, he just approaches the game the right way. He's always playing his ass off. He is just crisp. He's tight. He's game
ice cold. He is
cold, huh?
Man, he is. I mean, look at all the big shots that Derek hit, and look at all the big shots that Kobe hit.
Crazy.
I mean, you can go shot for shot in some instances, and with Derek Fisher, and RIP Kobe, but with Derek Fisher, he hits a lot of timely shots. Mm-hmm. And you need to tie it up right now.
For sure.
And when you're out there with Derek and Kobe, you feel safe. Like people don't really understand that, but when you're out there with Derek Fisher and Kobe Bryant, like you're not worried when you got both of them there.
For sure. That's an interesting perspective. Okay, so let's get so we're coming down to the wire. The Lakers, Fisher hits the tying 3. Everyone forgets about that. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, he hit the tying 64-64. Big 64.
Shot. What an ugly game. An ugly, but just a battle, just a war. All right. Kobe at the top of the key, a little too far up. He knows that he doesn't have the shot. A jump pass to you. You do a quick jab step and just launch that 3. I mean, what's your memory of that shot?
So that was all Chuck Person. I was 23. Chuck Person and Larry Bird.
Chuck Person, the Rifleman
and Larry Bird. Like, those guys had me in that gym. And this when I was young. Every day, Larry Bird, Chuck Person working with me every single day. And that's when I became really, really good. Those guys, man, Larry Bird, Chuck Person, man, those guys taught me how to play the game. And
amazing.
And it's funny because when I was with them, I was averaging 25, right? And then when I left, I was 20, but I was averaging 25. I was 23 years old, so I always felt like if I would have stayed with Indiana, the next year I probably would have been at 25, then at 24, 26. It would have always been somewhere around there. I really wish I could rewind time. Boy, I wish I could rewind time.
Funny story. So Chuck Person, because he was nicknamed after a guy named Chuck Connors, who was a TV actor on the show The Rifleman. Yeah. And Chuck Connors, the actor, was my neighbor growing up. He lived across the alley. Swear to God. Wow. Swear to God. He gave me my first baseball glove ever.
What?
Chuck Connors, the Rifleman, man. I had this. He was tall. He was like 6'5". We had this wall to the back to my back alley, and he was so tall he could look over the wall. And he just saw me playing baseball one time, and he's like, "Hey, I got this glove." So Chuck Connors, the rifleman, the actor, gave me my first baseball glove, and that's who Chuck Person was nicknamed after. Which is
What a
incredible
small
stuff.
world. 6 degrees of separation, huh?
So me and you, we got Queens, we got the riflemen. We touch points all over the place here.
When I was coming on your show, everybody was like, "Man, you going with Matt? Good luck." So a lot of people was like, a lot of big fans of you, man. People was texting me, hitting me up in my direct messages. I'm so excited to see you on with Matt. I'm like, wow.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm hoping that it seems like we found an interesting thing that people really are tapping into and enjoying and finding informative during a tough time. So I'm hoping that, and I know people are loving this right now. And really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
And for sure. And I think maybe we've got a few more minutes. So
yeah,
it's man, we got to talk Kobe, and it hit us all hard.
yeah.
I'll see him on TV, and I'm like, it's like he's still here. I'm like, how is he gone? And
No,
just
definitely.
what are your memories of Kobe, and how have you been handling it since he's passed?
Well, with Kobe, it was I mean, he was like a brother, and obviously super competitive. We could talk about that all day. It wasn't something that we were ready for. I don't think the world was ready for it. Now you
Not
see,
at all.
I don't think anybody was ready for it. And now you see, everybody mourning and different things like that. So it felt like a big game. It felt like the biggest game being played at its finest. And sometimes it still feel like that. I still feel like he's going to come back and he's going to say, that was what did Bill Gates call germ games? That was scare games. That was scare games, and only Kobe can pull that off, right? And sometimes it's only because usually when there's a death, you go to the funeral, you see the body, So I wasn't able to have any closure. So is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Sometimes it's a good thing because he feels so alive in me. He feels so alive around me, like, so maybe it's a good thing, because, I'm not the one to like to sleep in the dark all the time.
Sure.
I can now, but, I don't like scary movies. So that was very shocking, man. It was the craziest thing. I was really hurt. I was on a plane with my wife. We was flying to Finland, and I just started busting out crying. And it was like weeks after everything happened, I just couldn't. I was trying to hold it in as much as I can, but man, what a shock!
It hit us all hard, man. I mean, I was not prepared for it. It's just like all the memories, all the great times I watched him, came flooding back. I mean, I kind of synced up because me and him were around the same age. You guys growing up here in LA as a kid in the 80s, I had Magic. We had the whole Showtime thing. Then we had a nice little period, but whatever, it was fine. We missed the playoffs one time, for crying out loud. I can't complain. Then Kobe comes around, right around the time, like, I grew up with that guy, man. All the great times in my adult life, watching the Lakers with friends for 15 years. It was through the prism of Kobe Bryant, and then to see him, because he was, I think he was such a competitor. And that was why he was aggressive and fighter. But then he just took all that energy and took it towards generosity and being an ambassador for the game. He was doing such great stuff. And to see us robbed of that, I said it in an Instagram post, like, a year from now, I'm going to pop on a Lakers game, and I'm going to watch. I'm like, I cannot believe Kobe Bryant's gone. And it's just going to shock me all over again.
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy. And so we're coming down to this last minute here. Maybe you want to, let's just, your last word on Kobe, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, man, RIP to Kobe. And I think that he touched a lot of people because we've seen his downs, his lows, and his highs and his peaks. And that's the ultimate, story of a comeback kid, and to come out on top with your family. He gave it his all. I've seen it. You've seen it. What you've seen is what I've seen.
100%. I can't believe it cut us off. It said 50 Instagram. I'm not letting you off the hook on this one. We had 18 seconds left and it cut us off. So let's see if Metta is back. We're about to wrap up. That was awesome. How much fun was that? Thanks, guys. We'll give it a second. I don't want to interrupt, but just need some closure on that, man. Need some closure. That was too good. Fucking IG, 18 seconds. I'm about to finish it off, and it cuts us off. Unbelievable. Terrible. All right, so we'll give it another second. Thank you, everybody. All right. I think that was an amazing interview, guys. I met Metta World Peace, a true champion, a true sincere guy who cares about humanity, cares about his fellow man. And the information that he was willing to disclose to us, to share with us, was it was heroic. And I'm so grateful that he was willing to join us, that you guys were willing to join us. And I think this was a special night. It was a special interview. Metta World Peace is a special guy. And I think that was awesome. I think that was really, really great. Unfortunately, Instagram cut us off. I'm glad that Metta was able to get that last word in there on Kobe before it did. We're all still hurting from Kobe Bryant, man. We all still mourn his loss and what he was going to bring to society and what he had to share. And it would have been great to have him through such a tough, a warrior like that, through a tough scenario like this. So once again, thanks so much to Metta World Peace. Thank you, guys. And wow, what a great guy and what a great interview. And I hope everybody has a great night. Yes, Bobby Asil. It would be amazing to have Bobby Asil involved in anything. If you want to talk other fucking champions, Bobby Asil's right there. So everybody, thank you so much and have an awesome night.